I've had quite a few requests to look at this game, Radjabov against Grischuk, from the Tbilisi FIDE Grand Prix tournament. So, as it's a Najdorf variation, an opening I'm very interested in, I thought I'd take a look, and it's a very entertaining game. So, off we go. Timur Radjabov with the white pieces. Now, often he plays quite quietly in the opening, but on this day, for some reason, he decided to take Grischuk on in an open Sicilian, and Grischuk has played the Najdorf variation, which is great to see. It is still very much at the forefront of opening theory, not just the Berlin defence. And Radjabov plays bishop g5. Of course, many moves possible there. Bishop e3, currently very popular. Caruana likes to play h3. Bishop e2 is Karpov's move. Well, there are many variations that white can play. But bishop g5, I suppose in the 1970s, this was at the height of fashion and was always considered as the acid test of the Najdorf variation. Black has many options here. But Grischuk selects, well, the favourite move of Kasparov and Fischer, which is the most extreme move really. It's called the poisoned pawn variation, where black attempts to grab this pawn, exploiting the fact that this bishop has moved from c1 at a very early stage. If white backs down with knight b3, then that really is a concession, and it's been proved that black can develop quite comfortably there. But queen d2, of course, is the critical variation, allowing black to take this pawn on b2, but at the cost of development. Now, rook b1 is the most common move here, but knight b3 is not stupid, as Boris Spassky played twice against Bobby Fischer, scoring 1 win and a draw in their Reykjavik 1972 match. So knight b3, not a bad move actually, but rook b1 is the most common, the most straightforward move in this position. And here, well, you know, over the past few decades, f5 is actually the most common move, and also leads to incredible complications. But Radjabov selected e5, which is currently, well, the last word in fashion at the moment. And this variation here, well, knight d7 is the old move. Knight d5 has seen a lot of attention recently, certainly not a bad move for black. But g5 is a very trendy continuation. This was first tried out in several computer games, and after some success there, I think a lot of professionals began to see that this was a viable continuation. Taking on f6 is the most common move here, for example, as in the game Yu Yang-yi against Ray Robson in Las Vegas 2014 went in this direction, and Robson won this game. I mean, it's terrifying to leave this pawn on f6, and you can see that the only piece that black has developed is the queen here. It's quite a scary position for black to play, but quite typical of this poison pawn variation. If black survives, then he'll be material ahead, and he's got 2 bishops as well. But anyway, instead of taking on f6, Radjabov played bishop g3. As I said, I'm very surprised that Radjabov went in for this variation. Normally he's a fairly quiet player with the white pieces. So the knight is attacked on f6, so this move to h5. Now, if the bishop drops back, one would like to retain this bishop, but then knight d7 comes, attacking the pawn. That's quite annoying. So Radjabov continued on with his initiative. The knight, of course, is very powerfully placed on e4, looking at these sensitive squares on d6 and f6. And knight d7. Well, this looks logical to cover f6, to look at the e5 pawn, but also perhaps to come out c5 as well. Rook b3, attacking the queen. And Grischuk took on a2, so this is quite typical for this variation. This queen, well, maintains its active position. Actually, you could retreat to a4 there, but well, in a sense, why bother? Let's use the queen as an asset and perhaps gain some counterplay here. And queen takes pawn is definitely the best move. Now here previously queen c3 has been played, and I think that's an interesting idea actually, because sometimes knight d6 will open this diagonal, and the queen does cover the a1 square as well. That's been played before. No doubt the players had analysed that, but Radjabov played bishop e2, which is a new move. Now, what a tricky position. Very hard to understand this. In fact, knight takes bishop has been seen before in a game between two amateurs. Of course, that opens up this h-file. And, well, white is ready to castle as well. It's still a very tricky position. In fact, queen a1 check is probably the best move here. Now, there's some very interesting variations, so just bear with me, because it's very interesting. I'm sure that Grischuk would have considered this. Two possible continuations: bishop d1 blocking a check, or king f2. Let's have a look at king f2 first, because this is very tempting for white to play. If queen takes rook, well, this is like some 19th century game, then knight takes e6 is a very powerful move. If this is taken, then bishop takes knight check, and well, the black queen is just at the wrong end of the board, and queen a5, this is a winning attack actually. Queen c7 and followed by rook to f3 to f7, and there's no decent defence to that. I mean, that is a poisoned pawn gone very badly wrong. But there's a clever move here, and it's quite possible that Grischuk overlooked this. This is so typical that you have to dig yourself out of this situation with some kind of tactical finesse. Well, if that queen is taken, then knight takes knight check, forks king and queen. So this knight has to be taken, and this looks, well, the knight protects the rook. This still looks rather desperate, but in fact black saves himself again with a tactical finesse. You can take the knight and you get the queen back, and well, with two extra pawns in an endgame, should be good for black. So king f2 doesn't work because of knight takes bishop. Bishop d1 is tricky, but here knight c5 exchanging pieces looks like a good move, and again it's best to throw in this move, knight takes bishop. Here this still looks very scary for black, but there's a very typical idea here for the poisoned pawn. Although the queen is trapped out of play for the time being, and it looks like there's going to be some kind of very powerful attack against f7. Rook a7, b5 and rook a7 is a great idea, and as I said, very typical for the poisoned pawn. The rook defends the sensitive point f7, but also prepares to come to d7 to counterattack. And this is probably better for black, incredibly. But instead of that, Grischuk played knight c5. But he'd obviously overlooked something. Knight c3, attacking the queen. If queen a1 check, now rook b1 is possible, hitting the queen, followed by bishop takes knight. So Grischuk took the rook. That attacks the queen, of course, so white can't take immediately. Knight takes, so that's now black is an exchange up, but the queen is attacked and the knight is attacked as well. Now, probably best for black is knight takes bishop, giving up the queen. And now the king will come over to take that knight. Now, objectively, this must be better for white. He's got queen and three minor pieces against two rooks and two bishops. But this is still tricky because after black gets castled, well, maybe you can start pushing your a pawn. It's not easy. Must be better for white, though. That's certainly the best continuation for black. Instead, Grischuk played bishop b4. And he's going to get back the knight. But his king is so badly placed now. White breaks through on f7. And queen f2 is a simple move. Black can't simplify. These important squares are covered, so impossible to defend by counter-attacking. Queen f6 check is threatened. For example, rook f8. And this is a completely winning attack. And now bishop f2. And there's a check on b6, and that's winning for white. King d7 tried by Grischuk, but queen b6 kept the black king in the box. A check threatened here. If king e7, then bishop h5 is a very cool move, threatening rook f7. Grischuk played rook f8. Well, one could take on e6, but bishop e1 is perhaps even simpler, and that's the move that Radjabov played, just picking up material and continuing the attack. For example, if queen c4, then bishop takes b4, hitting the rook, and, well, the attack is absolutely deadly. And if instead queen c6, then just queen b4, and again, completely winning position for white. So very nicely played by Radjabov. But this just shows, if you play the poison pawn variation, in a theoretical sense, it might be okay for black, might be. But one false move, and it's all over. Grischuk, one of the strongest players in the world, and he managed to lose in 24 moves. That's why, although I really love playing the Najdorf with black, I've never played the poison pawn. I think, practically speaking, it's too risky. I know Kasparov played it, Bobby Fischer, of course, played it, but I think for us mortals, it's just impractical. On my Najdorf DVD, I simply recommend playing the main line with bishop e7 and the brown variation, among others. I think it's very reliable, but there are other decent continuations for black in this main line. This is not about remembering variations by rote, and you don't come under so much pressure. This is more about understanding strategies, for example, the idea with h6 and g5, which is very common in this variation. So, you take the pressure off yourself, basically. If you're interested in learning more about that, then do check out my Najdorf DVD. You can download that directly from the ChessBase shop, or order a physical DVD as well. So you'll see a link is provided on the title page of this clip, and you'll see the advert at the end of this. Advertisement over. Thanks very much for watching.